Hey UConn Nation, it's KK Arnold here. If you're looking for the latest UConn women's basketball content, go subscribe to Listen Up to Phil and Ryan. Go Huskies!
Phil and Ryle, listen up. Oh my goodness, Ryan. I feel like that this is like a whole new podcast that we're starting all of a sudden just because of the scenery, the atmosphere. Listen, we're coming to you guys live, you all live from UConn, right, Ryan? After this, I don't even know what to say, really, because I don't know if I'm more impressed by the atmosphere up here that they have, the fans, a sellout crowd
Yeah.
tonight. There's so much to go over. Of course, we did receive bad news prior to the game about AZ Fudd. We're going to keep our fingers crossed. I know you have a lot to cover on that, Ryan. Tonight, we're not getting into comments tonight. We are going to cover this whole game just because we were there. And listen, before we get into it, before you start out your biggest takeaways, let's just say I want to thank the Arnold family, first of all. I want to shout out to Rose. I want to shout out to everybody, the 10,000 people in there, right? I mean, that was an experience to never forget. And for sure, like we told someone, this will not be our first and last time. You know, we will be back. I mean, what a great city. What a great basketball town.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I kind of took in when we first arrived at Gamble was just the atmosphere of everybody. And when you watch the games at home, when we watch them, obviously, everybody says it's so loud, but you don't really realize how loud it is until you're actually sitting, the game's going on, the students are over here screaming and yelling. The fans all around us are screaming and yelling. So that was really the first thing that I took away.
I still can't hear. What'd you say?
Yeah, but I felt like I lost hearing a little bit during the game. But yeah, like Phil said, just thank everybody. KK, shout out to her. She played great as well.
Shout out to the whole team.
Yeah, the whole team that definitely stepped up in a big way. Put on a show for us and for everybody in attendance. So couldn't have attended a better game tonight. Really excited we got the opportunity. Thanks to everybody who made it happen. But yeah, I mean, you
shout out to the media, Ryan, for providing us this.
Yeah,
we couldn't watch on TV, and we wanted to actually sit back and enjoy it. Right? You told me, no, Phil, I'm not taking my computer or my notepad. We're just going to watch the game. So, and then we were gifted with this. So, Ryan, I know it's kind of weird. So, where do you want to start? I know. So, obviously, Maryland came out, and it's weird, right? Because I expected a closer game. I really did. This was UConn women's basketball at its best, and I'm so glad that I was wrong because I told you I was concerned. What are your biggest takeaways? Because this was about, obviously you and I sitting beside each other the whole game. And I said prior to halftime, just before halftime, Ryan, this is one of the most physical basketball games that I've ever seen. Not saying I'm that old, but that was physical.
Yeah, I mean, and Paige even had a bruise under her eye after the game.
Yeah,
had to come out. I believe that was during the second quarter. Came back in and she lit everybody up as well. But yeah, really a physical game. And they were saying during the press conference, we were lucky enough to be in when Maryland and UConn spoke after the game during the press conference, and some of the reporters were bringing up the loss that UConn suffered last year, and how that kind of played into the game, how it, maybe made it more physical. These two teams kind of have a history now. So, yeah, definitely a pretty rough game. Unfortunately, AZ, like we said, was not in the lineup, suffered a knee injury Tuesday at the end of practice. But yeah, for everybody that played tonight, definitely weren't expecting a blowout. It was kind of close at first, really close game through the first quarter. And then I think, kind of after the second quarter, after Paige went down, KK was brought into the game. The three freshmen tonight, Ashlyn Shade, KK Arnold, and Ice Brady, really all showed out while Paige was on the floor, all three of them. So that was quite the lineup as well. But yeah, I mean, just what KK was able to do when she came out that second quarter, the second half. I mean, she scored points that made a little Euro step, got steals, rebounds. She did everything. Paige did what Paige does. Aaliyah had an amazing night rebounding the ball, and I think everybody had a good night rebounding the ball. I think everybody attacked the basket more. So just kind of a completely opposite game of what we saw versus NC State. And then here tonight, obviously, really, picked it up after a tough NC State loss.
Yeah, and wasn't it Gina mentioned in the press conference that we sat in? Wasn't it that just a year ago when Maryland defeated UConn? Were they speaking about the it was when they were down all the then players, UConn.
Yeah.
Was it that game he was talking about that speaks volumes how UConn was still able to compete in that game against Maryland in College Park last year. Was it in College Park?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean but Ryan, I'm looking here, at our stat sheet here, and the biggest lead, Maryland had a lead. A 5-point lead in the second with 5:51. So again, the way UConn came out with all the players, and again, all the players firing on all cylinders, like we say, right? But I want to point out to you, Ryan, right here. Look at this bench points. I talked about it the first game. UConn had 29 points off of the bench, right? Compared to Maryland's 8. I know we talk about, and I understand now why people are saying, well, it's not that important starting lineups and stuff, but I feel guilty because, right, it's a lot of comments that we received about, don't talk about Paige so much, or other ladies need to step up other than Paige. Well, guess what, Ryan? I'm starting to finally, again, I was guilty of it, but now it's not all of a sudden, and I'm not saying that Paige, they don't need Paige. They definitely need Paige. But now we can say, Ryan, that now we're going up to see, how about in at least another year or two, now we're going to see KK Arnold and company. Now it's not just like Paige Bueckers. And that, to me, that's a good thing. You're not just saying Paige Bueckers and company. I mean, now you're starting to see this team finally, they're getting it together piece by piece.
Yeah, and I think, we kind of expected that to take a little bit. Of course, we still are only in 3 games into the season, so we knew it was going to take a little bit for the freshmen and just everybody to kind of come together. But, maybe not even expecting it to happen this fast. But Maryland, definitely a really respectable team. With a lot of great players. Cheyenne Sellers still at a pretty good game tonight. But really just UConn's defense after that second quarter, where you just mentioned that Maryland had the lead. After that, Maryland had a really difficult time scoring the ball at any point in the game. After that, Maryland 27 turnovers. And this stat as well, UMD, Maryland only 9 points off of UConn, 17 turnovers, but UConn scoring 29 points off of those 27 Maryland turnovers. So that was definitely a big point in the game too, was getting open shots off of those turnovers and capitalizing on the mistakes that Maryland made. And really just UConn's defense forcing all those. And something else as well that goes along with the defense, 16 steals. Gino mentioned it's been a long time since UConn has forced that many steals in a game, kind of getting back to what UConn basketball really is about, and it starts with their defense.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that, like I said, defense wins championships, Ryan. I mean, that's just not in football. That's anything. No. And we're well aware of that tonight. Just very quickly going back to the second quarter was when Paige Bueckers got hit hard in the, in the eye?
Yeah.
You could literally feel silence.
It went completely silent.
Yeah, not just hear silence. You could feel the silence. Boy, and you and I just looked at each other, right? I don't know, man. We talked about Paige Bueckers so much, but I'm going to do it again. I thought after the game, I'm like, and she wouldn't want me to think like this, right? She wouldn't want me to say, "Man, poor Paige." You know, she don't want you to feel sorry for her. But I mean, I'm gonna say it anyway. Poor Paige. I mean, she takes hits, and like Gino, what did Gino say? Something about she attracts hits.
Yeah,
You know, she attracts hits, and it's no lie. I mean, they say it how it is, and I really appreciate that. Really appreciate it or that rather from this team. You know, they get every other team's A game when they come, whether UConn's at home or on the road. They get every other team's A game, and people are out to beat UConn. Let's face it.
Yeah.
People are out to try to limit Paige Bueckers because she's just right. It's kind of, I still can't really. It's like something that people are still wrapping their mind around. Like how does you put a ball in Paige Bueckers' hands and look at the magic that happens? And hey, that's a good point. I'm glad I brought it up, Ryan, because after she went down with that eye injury, oh boy, I mean the game, and very quickly, and I will. This is pretty much the end. Unless you have anything else to say, we'll stop it right here. I'm glad I wanted to bring this up to you, Ryan. We talk about it was a great team effort all around. KK Arnold, and I know I told them, I said this is the KK podcast tonight. Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, man, did every player on this UK, and then Maryland too. They did a great job. But again, after halftime, they couldn't keep up. But every player on the UConn Huskies roster, right? They showed up, and I just want to make sure we received comments, Ryan, and I wanted to ask you what you think about this. We saw some people come through, and they said other players need to step up other than Paige. That's what happened tonight.
Yeah,
but right after the eye injury, there was still no denying who this team needs the most. It's the biggest moments where you rise to the occasion. And I'm sorry, I know I might get beat up for this. Every UConn Husky is amazing. I get it. I know, Ryan, but you have to hear me out. There's only one that survives in the biggest moments so far that I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, and to go along with, with a little bit of that, Paige was also saying that with her coming back from the injury, people want to test her whenever she gets the ball. People want to test her to see if she's really back healthy from the injury. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, on Paige. Just her I think her from a mental perspective, just her making sure she's 100% ready.
Yeah.
But I think it really just it's like a switch for Paige. When it's time to go out there and prove it, she really does, and it's amazing to watch. To watch it in person is even more spectacular. But yeah, it truly is amazing. But I mean, really the whole team came through tonight, and I think that's going to be the recipe for success. The freshmen that come in, obviously all the starters and all the bench players, and I think most of the games UConn's bench is going to have to outscore the opponent's bench to get results like this. But the freshmen stepped up. Ice Brady had a tremendous game. I just everybody, the whole team stepped up tonight. Paige Bueckers took over once again, and UConn 80-48 final. Didn't do much wrong tonight.
80-48. Yeah, you're right. And this is actually very weird. But Ryan, before we get ready to hit the road tomorrow morning, and I say goodnight to you. I mean, from Storrs, Connecticut, we're saying goodnight. Usually it's from Maryland, but from Storrs, Connecticut, Ryan, again, final score 80-48. UConn Huskies over the Maryland Terps. It is Phil and Rye. Thank you, everyone, for a great experience. It's been great, but I think Ryan's ready to get back to Maryland. So we'll leave it off right here. Phil and Rye on Listen Up.